Welcome to the Dirt on Growing, where we don't just plant seeds, we plant ideas that challenge the norm. I'm your host, Brandon Rust from FulCrop Sciences, and this is the podcast where living soil meets real science. From worm castings to bottled nutrients, microbial inoculants, and chemical pesticides, we're here to question the trends, break down the data, and empower your grow. It's time to think deeper and grow better.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Dirt on Growing podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Rust, and today we're going to be talking about microbial shortcuts to instantly healthier soil. So if we're going to talk about soil health, we got to define healthy soil. So when I'm thinking about what is healthy soil, I'm looking at carbon, number one, right? What types of carbon substrates do we have in there? Soil structure, water retention, and availability of nutrients, right? Oftentimes, the availability of nutrients and the amount of carbon are directly associated with each other because the solubility and the availability of those nutrients are directly impacted by microbial processes that are a product of carbon, right? So the amount of carbon as a fuel, as a substrate, creates healthy, fertile soils. So instantly healthy soils, this is your shortcut right here. Microbial consortiums. I like to use the Microbe Plus, which is also known as effective microorganisms, but it's a consortium, right? Lactic acid bacteria, Bacillus subtilis, a photosynthetic bacteria, which is purple non-sulfur bacteria, known as Rhodopseudomonas, and then fermentive yeast, also known as Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which is also known as brewer's yeast. All of these microbes are ubiquitous to the environment, so they can be found throughout the world in some quantity. But when you concentrate these types of microorganisms together, this consortium, they work synergistically together to do biochemical work on our soils. So if you're looking for instantly healthier soils, you want soils that cycle nutrients more efficiently, you want to promote wide diversities of beneficial microorganisms. You want to cycle things like phosphorus and build conditions where those microorganisms can capture atmospheric nitrogen and convert it into ammonia, plant available forms. That is what these microbial consortiums do. They help to outcompete pathogens, cycle nutrients, improve soil structure, improve water retention. They bind and chelate different types of nutrients. Looks like my name has a typo. And so that is one way that you can instantly improve your soil. And here's a good example. So some of us, like myself in the past, would throw soil out every single run, right? What do I have to do to improve this soil or reuse this soil? Oftentimes it's just about re-amending and then adding microbes. It makes it so things work more efficiently. The difference of with microbes in a soil system or without microbes as inoculant, you'll see a night and day difference, because one of the things that you're going to see instantly, right, is the improvement in solubility of micronutrients. And one of the ways that works is because when you start watering with this, it decreases the pH of your solution, right? So if you're watering in a pH solution that's maybe 5, right, you might think to yourself, oh man, this low pH is going to have a negative impact on my soil system. But that would be incorrect. And I know it's counterintuitive, but the reason why is because these microbes, the pH is so low is because they work through fermentation, and they've created during the fermentation process a bunch of organic enzymes and a bunch of acids and a bunch of hormones. And what happens is when those go into a system, those organic acids, they grab on to micronutrients like iron and zinc and copper. They chelate them and they hold them in a bioavailable form. And the thing is, when that water is at that low pH, those micronutrients are soluble at those lower pH ranges. Iron operates in below 5.5. Once it starts getting above 5.5, it starts to oxidize and becomes unavailable to plants. Same thing with manganese. So when you're watering in these microbes, they're not only decreasing the solution pH to help with the availability of those micronutrients, but it's then grabbing onto those nutrients and holding them in a bioavailable form. And then it's also at the same time, it's degrading these enzymes that are in it. They're degrading the organic carbon that's liberating more of these nutrients, right? It's liberating phosphorus, and it's liberating calcium, and it's liberating iron, and it's liberating carbon as well. And as this carbon, as these enzymes are degrading this carbon, it's liberating these free carbon molecules that then can be utilized for energy for these microbes to grab onto and make new carbon compounds. They can make new enzymes, and they can make phytohormones, and they can make antimicrobial properties that are gonna destroy invading pathogenic microbes, right? So there's so many awesome things that these consortiums do. I'm telling you, if you're not using Microbe Plus, you should at least using the watered down version, which is Terraganics EM, or if you can get your hands on ferments. Ferments are great too, right? Because those ferments, oftentimes when you're doing a ferment, maybe you're fermenting pumpkin, or maybe you're fermenting leaf mulch waste, but all of these things are bringing in nutrients, microbiology, and then all of those amazing chemicals that those microbes are producing: hydroxamate sidiophores, organic acids, enzymes, or they're creating phytohormones, they're creating poly and monosaccharides, they're creating amino acids, they're creating all these awesome things that are doing all this biochemical work. So microbes are the key to instantly shortcutting your way to improve soil health. Obviously, it's not a one and done thing. You still want to maintain proper balanced nutrients. You still want to maintain good water quality. But man, microbes are the powerhouse. They're the things that improve phosphorus cycling, improve nitrogen cycling, improve micronutrient cycling. They're responsible for carbon cycling, right? They can break down that carbon in soil to release those nutrients. And oftentimes what you'll see happen is, right, the breakdown of organic carbon in the soil will liberate CO2 into the atmosphere. But if you've got the right type of microbes, like the Pseudomonas, right, the photosynthetic microorganisms, they're going to capture the CO2 that's being produced through the breakdown of organic matter, and they're going to use that. They're going to capture that carbon through photosynthesis, and they're going to convert that carbon into humic substances or fulvic substances, right? Because they're going to produce enzymes and organic acids that are going to do work on that carbon. They're going to make more complex carbon compounds from that CO2. So it's so much fun, man. Microbes. A microbial inoculant, right? I cannot say enough how important it is for overall plant and soil fertility. And it's not just one microbe, right? You want to look at consortiums. Consortiums do more work because they work synergistically together, right? When you're inoculating with lactic acid bacteria, which have the ability to produce things like mono and polysaccharides, right? Those are the glues that aggregate soil colloids, sand, silt, and clay particles together. They aggregate pieces of organic carbon and help glue them to clay colloids. Not only that, but those mono and polysaccharides, right? They can house, right? These biofilms, they actually house all different types of microorganisms, and they can protect microorganisms from oxidation, right? So if you've got azobacter, right, that can pull atmospheric nitrogen, if they can take dinitrogen, they can use an enzyme called nitrogenase, which nitrogenase, that enzyme, if it is exposed to oxygen, it doesn't work. So they usually do this process in root nodes, in root nodes, right? You'll see that on legume crops, which produces the nodules on the actual roots, and that protects those microorganisms. But if you're working with crops that aren't legumes, that aren't producing those nodules, but you have microorganisms that are producing these mono and polysaccharide biofilms, those azobacters, they can live and be protected by these biofilms from oxidation, which means they can produce that nitrogenase. They can produce that enzyme free and clear of oxidation, so that way they can get that nitrogen from the atmosphere and convert it into ammonium and deliver it to the plants. And also the microorganisms are using it too, right? The reason why the microbes do this process that feed the plants is because the microbes themselves need all of these same elements. If you're talking about the beginnings of life, the 5 elements that you need are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus, right? That's why nitrogen and phosphorus cycling and carbon cycling is so important to healthy soils, right? These natural processes are what gives us life. It's what gives us phosphate. It's what converts unavailable forms of phosphorus into phosphate. It's what converts unavailable dinitrogen into ammonium, right? It transforms CO2 into carbon substrates that can be utilized by these microorganisms. So it's actually a fantastic holistic thing that's all happening from all angles: nitrogen cycling, phosphorus cycling, carbon cycling, water dynamics, soil dynamics, microbial interactions, the interactions between hydroxamate sideiophores, the interactions between organic acids and nutrients, and the way that they hold them together and the way that they deliver them. All of these things are always happening with microbes, man. Microbes are the driving force for all of these processes, and they're responsible for the proliferation of life and for the higher orders of life, because these microbes, they coexisted and co-evolved with plants to make plants what they are. So all of these processes that microbes have, plants have too. Plants can make different types of carbon substrates and produce metabolites and exudate them through their roots. And they can also produce metabolites and they can exudate them through their flowers and through the chemical compounds, the volatile organic compounds that they give off that can bring in pollinators or repel different things. Microbes are doing all these same things. This is like when you look at nature, right? There's a saying, it goes, as above, so below. And it's because systems in nature, they mirror each other from the microscopic to the macroscopic, right? And so you can look at all these processes, and plants are doing what microbes are doing, and microbes are interacting with plants, right? They're not just interacting with their root systems, but they're going inside of the plant, inside the xylem, and they're procreating and they're living inside the plants, right? They're living on the phylosphere. They're living freely in the soil itself. All of these processes it's mind-blowing. It is absolutely mind-blowing how microbes work. But you want a good consortium. You want things that play well and function together and are going to promote the synergy that you're looking for. So that's my spiel, man. I was excited to talk about microbes, man, and I absolutely love it. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up to Q&A. Get involved. Let's talk about it, guys. I'm going to start going through to some of these comments that are already up here. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so happy to see so many familiar faces. We have a new Instagram account at FulCrop.CEO. All of my accounts unfortunately got banned. And there's nothing I can do to get them back. I've actually got somebody on Meta on the line, which I thought was absolutely impossible, to talk to a physical person. But I think there might be some other options I can take. So I'm going to keep looking into it. I'm not going to give up. But in the meantime, you can go check out those accounts. Don Silent says he's not joking. CalSil and Micro Plus gave my last harvest of GG4 so dank different terps coming out. Yeah, dude, you want to maximize the genetic expression of the plant, and I'm telling you, that Micro Plus CalSil combination is killer. I just did it on my garden, in my beds at home. I wish I could show you guys on IG all of the work and all the things that I'm so passionate about. It is such a bummer sometimes to have to deal with this, but we're on YouTube, and maybe I can just show you a little. Oh, here we go. There we go. No, not the best video, but garden's on point and microbes are the fucking best. Trent's got a garden. Hey, you know what? I would love for you guys to go and DM me all of these positive reviews, because I'm going to be doing, as part of my new social media campaign, because I can't show the plants, but I can show you your guys' positive feedback. I'm going to have a format where it's just basically, this is your guys' comment. This is Trent's, it's say Trent's got a garden, so people can see. But I love hearing that, man. Good morning, Brandon. Trimmed last night, perfect dry, and the quality I'm after. I'm so glad that you listened to my advice and tried something different with your drying and curing process. And I'm so stoked that that it turned out as well as it did for you. Woody Stems, what's up, buddy? This is one of the OGs. I'm glad to see you in the chat. Are there microbes in worm castings as a tea from a bubble bucket worthwhile in a non-depleted soil? Yes, absolutely, man. So when you're going to take all of those different microbes from your worm buckets, there's a bunch of probiotic stuff in there. There's a wide diversity, and it's good. Go ahead and inoculate, man. It's gonna be all right. It's a good thing. Microbes are beneficial. Yeah, I did hit some good sativa. I actually smoked some outdoor today. I had some Blueberry Train Mac was on the menu, man. I'm pumped. I'm excited. And I'm mostly pumped and excited because even though we get knocked back down sometimes, man, we can push forward and we can improve on what we did before to make it even better the second time around. And that's where I'm at right now. We're working so diligently and so hard on the back end. A lot of stuff that you guys don't see, like building our command center and HubSpot. There's so much business integration that is happening on the back end. There's so much content that, we would love to be able to provide us in the educational space. And we're figuring out ways to navigate around the bans and all the things that we have to deal with as a community. But I feel like, I get to see a lot of the same faces, and I get to engage with a lot of the same people. You guys come join the lives, and that's what it's about, right? It's about improving everything that we can do together. Is it safe to assume microbes are like yogurt or probiotics, but to plants? Absolutely. And if you look at what yogurt is made from, so it's lactic acid bacteria. So we're talking about lactic acid bacteria as one of those bacteria, because those are the microorganisms that are responsible for fermentation, right? Is those lactic acid bacteria. Yeah, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe, share. It always helps. Sacred Terra asks, so with the Humate, should you feed along with the CalSil Plus and microbes plus or stagger it out? So that is a great question, and you can actually use all of them together. So if you wanted to just feed all at once and you wanted to do microbes, Humates, and CalSil, it's perfectly fine. If you want to just do microbes and CalSil and then you want to do the complex Humate, that is fine as well. It's all dependent on what you prefer. It's your preference. Every system's a little bit different. The way people feed is a little different. Here's a situation where I would water all three together. So when I'm doing like my 2x2 tent, which I've been featuring on this YouTube channel, I have 9 plants. I didn't do any veg time. They're in 1 gallon pots. So I flipped from clone in 1 gallon pots. Now I only water about every 4 or 5 days. So in a situation where I'm not watering very often, it might be beneficial to get all of those things in there all at once, as opposed to breaking them up over the course of 10 days or 2 watering cycles. Love some microbes. 420 Stay Gold says, currently fermenting the natural organics at home and adding your humate and microbes to back me up. Awesome. Yeah, dude, if you're doing ferments at home, because I know it can be difficult. Not everybody does it. Some people like to do the natural farming, KNF type stuff. But Micro Plus, like if you're looking to have a starter culture for your fermentation, this works as your starter culture as well. This works to make Bokashi brand. This works as a standalone. So it's multifunctional. You can use that Micro Plus for a lot of different things. And I highly recommend ferments and these types of microbial consortiums that are produced through fermentation. So we have our fermentation tanks in the back of the office here, where we do all of the production on our microbes. Kyle Coates says he's loving his outdoor this year. He feels like it has a way stronger mental effect, and he appreciates all the help with everything this year. I can say off topic, I bud washed my outdoor grow and lost no terps, no ppm or residue, and tastes amazing and clean. Well, that's good, man. That's, I don't smoke a lot of outdoor. I'll maybe take the best pieces, but that's because I do mostly indoor for my flower stuff, and I did seeds all this year for outdoors. But do I have a powdered version of the microbes? It's a question. So yes, Microbe Plus, I do. Microbe Plus is actually made from the actual spores themselves. I add them into the stock tank with a carbohydrate, and then I do the fermentation. However, these aren't listed on the website because I just make the thing. But I do have things like the Bacillus and the Trichoderma, which again, those can also improve your soil health and soil quality. AWD asks, let's say you're about to foliar some manganese sulfate. Would you recommend using Microbe Plus in conjunction? Absolutely. If you're going to do a foliar application of manganese sulfate because you think you need some more manganese, what'll happen is the Microbe Plus will keep the pH low in that solution, so it'll keep that manganese from oxidizing, right? You don't want that manganese to oxidize because it's needed in its reduced form. So when you're spraying, if you're keeping it in a reduced form, you're going to have much more bioavailability, and it is going to be easier for the plant to uptake that through the plant stomata. You might even add in a couple of drops of yucca or kiaha as a surfactant to help really get full coverage to decrease the surface tension of that water so it can adhere to the surface of that plant more efficiently. If you guys enjoy these podcasts, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. I'm going to hop off for now. Thanks for joining me, guys. Make sure you guys check out the website, and remember, code SAVE20 will get you 20% off on the website right now.